Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rap Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Cory, could you borrow me $560.95?
No.
Oh, please, I really need it.
No.
Come on.
What do you need it for?
I'll be your friend.
You're already my friend.
Oh, damn it.
Because your mom sends me a check every month to make sure that I stay your friend.
There is one factory sealed box of Kaboom cereal from 1995 on eBay. I gotta have it.
Look, if you want to poop green, just drink some of that brainwashed blue.
Not the same.
No, it's better. Kaboom cereal. Jeez.
Yeah, and it's amazing that he has a box from that time. It was discontinued in 2010, which is really kind of a bummer because I was really looking forward to it.
I don't know, man. Even when it was out, I didn't care for Kaboom. I thought that the marshmallows were okay, but the little smiley faces, they would get soggy like if you showed them milk. I want my cereal to stand up. I want it to be tough. I want it to be King Vitamin tough, where you can leave it in the milk for a day and a half and it becomes
King Vitamin, have breakfast with the King Vitamin. I'm scared I still know the theme songs.
I'm scared it's still being made. Of course, it is just Captain Crunch in a crown shape, but still. Now, I told you that one time when I went to Canada, I did stop in Battle Creek, Michigan to take a tour of the Kellogg's factory because they do tours there.
Oh, fun. I love doing tours like that.
I don't know if General Mills does one that's here in Minnesota because, it's here. I'm not going to ask about that. It's only when you're a tourist that you ask about things like that. But I went to Battle Creek, Michigan, went through the tour, and at the end of it, I said, well, where's Tony? They went, oh, we've got a thing here where we show the old boxes and everything. I mean, no, where's Tony? Where's Tony the Tiger? And one of the little kids said, he's not real. And I turned and said, yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's got to be real.
Good going, kid. Cory, take the blue. Found it.
So we did not go to the Spam Museum on our trip. I've only been there once.
No, and it's been remodeled, and I have yet to be there since they did the new remodel. And it's free.
I know, that was the fun part of it. I went down, it was when I was running a group home, and we had a kid in Austin, Minnesota we were interviewing to see if he would come to the group home. And on the way back, said, I'm just going to stop here. Spent about an hour, bought a Spam keychain. I think I bought you a can of Spam.
Yum. It's still good.
Well, of course, that's what it's for. But, no, it's been a pretty busy week here at the old Strode compound because that's where I work now. And we are now bringing in temps.
Temps, as in the ice cream?
No, temps, as in temporary workers.
Oh, with a T.
So they keep saying, oh, we're going to have new people on the phone here soon. We're going to have new people on the phone here soon. Well, they damn well better hurry it up. Because it's been crazy. You've got the regular calls of, people who want to add their child or they got married or, they have questions about that. But then
they ran out of Kaboom.
Yeah, or they want to know what cereal they can eat to turn their kid's poo green so he doesn't have to go to school. And, I know that you've opened the school despite COVID, but he's pooping green. We can't let him go.
No, that can be a science experiment. Bring him in.
That's what I say. If you're a parent out there and they've opened the school and they're kind of saying your kid has to go to your local weird soda shop. Buy some of that brainwashed blue. Because the stuff that will come out of your child after they drink 3 bottles of it will scare any doctor to death.
If that's not an endorsement, nothing is.
I didn't even look. I didn't even see if they have Brainwash Blue at the Minnesota's largest candy store
Nope.
when we were there.
Nope, they didn't have it. I didn't see it at the last time I was at the Blue Soda Shop up in the northern parts. I don't know what city they're in. Crystal,
Gale, Minnesota. They also did not have the Rat Bastard root beer.
Or Orbits. I'm not talking the gum. I'm talking.
Oh, no. Nobody's going to have Orbits. They discontinued that 20 years ago.
Although we did see a bottle of it when we stopped last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago? We stopped at Space Aliens. They had one on display.
Yeah, they had one on display.
Yeah, and I want that too. That would go perfect with my Kaboom.
And your Crystal Pepsi?
Oh, now you're being silly.
Well, they put out Crystal Pepsi like 2 years ago, so.
Yeah. They just found an extra vat of it, and they diluted it, and they said, hey, however, if the good people at Pepsi want to send us some Crystal Pepsi or Pepsi Light, I used to love drinking that.
Or Pepsi AM.
Right. Twice the caffeine.
The Jolt Cola. I don't even think they still make Jolt Cola in college. That's how
Jolt Cola Diet Jolt upstairs.
We would actually power through finals with no-dos, crunch up them no-dos, put it in a Jolt Cola, drink that. You're good for the rest of the night. No, we couldn't afford cocaine. We did legal drugs.
Yeah. I'm sure all the little moms in the 90s were wondering, who's feeding their kids Jolt Cola? Out of my pop machine.
Ooh.
Yeah, we with Brent from Comic Archives, we would buy lots of Jolt, divided in two, and I bought the cans and put them through the pop machine.
My son was into this soda called Balls, BAWLZ. And he would make money with it because he would go to LAN parties. That's a long time ago. Hey, let's not connect on the internet. The internet's too slow. We need to all gather in one place and hook our computers together as a local area network. But we would go to Costco, and he would buy 3 or 4 cases of Balls soda, and they were like, I don't know, 90 cents a bottle when you broke it down, and he would sell them for $3 a bottle. And that's how he would pay for stuff. That's
capitalism, baby.
Capitalism at its best. Yeah. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not into nostalgic sodas. Well, we are.
We are. And sodas and cereals and Cheez-It boxes.
And Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. Oh, can't have enough of those.
But no, we're here to review funny books.
Yeah.
Because we buy a lot of funny books. We go out, drive around for funny books. We get digital funny books. We get omnibus funny books. And we're going to tell you some of the stuff we've read and whether it's worth it or not.
Yep.
Our review system is buy, borrow, or ignore. And if something is made that's not for us, but other people may like it, it's aimed at another market, we will point that out as well. So, Joe?
I have in my hands a single comic that we got.
Comic?
I know, just one comic book. And it's one of those that we picked up on our Sojourn. Am I saying that right? Sojourn. Okay. When we went down to Mankato. I don't know, in the first part of the podcast last week, did we get to the comic shops, or are we still on our way down?
Not. Okay. I also have a freaking. So remind me of the Road to Mankato freaking I have.
All right. But we did get down there, and when part 2 airs, whenever it airs, you'll hear. But we went through a ton of dollar boxes and 50-cent boxes. And one of the comics I picked up because although I remember reading it, I don't remember it. And I also don't know, I probably don't have it in my collection. Cory remembers a little-known series called Legends of the DC Universe.
Yes.
1998 to about 2001 with a couple specials. An anthology title that had rotative creative teams It was kind of the DC Universe version of Legends of the Dark Knight, which was the Batman one. A lot of superstars in this series: James Robinson, William Misher Loebs, Mike Deodato Jr., Greg Land, Denny O'Neil, yada, 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 goes on. The original series ran for, I'm going through Atomic Avenue, 41 issues before it petered out. We've talked about that in the past, how anthology titles, they generally kind of peter out. People stop collecting them. I would imagine nowadays they do them more when they get a big name going, like Neil Adams is doing something with Fantastic Four. Instead of finishing up his book, The Villain, which one issue came out and no others, never will.
Or the Neil Adams, remember that graphic novel he's working on that proves that the world is expanding?
Yep. Nope.
He's been promising that for 35 years now.
So they do miniseries now instead of anthology titles, which is really too bad. But they did a one-shot called Legends of the DC Universe Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you don't know what Crisis on Infinite Earths is, take a pause and look it up on Wikipedia, because that means I am entirely too old or you're entirely too young. Anyways, I found a one-shot. It was done by Marv Wolfman and Paul Ryan as the artist, and McLeod's on there. He must have been the inker. The one shot referred to writer Marv Wolfman as Crisis on Infinite Earths 4.5, as it takes place between Infinite on Crisis Earths number 4 and 5. In this, they basically end up going to another Earth. It's a Multicultural Justice Alliance of America of Earth D. Don't worry about it. It was in the path of the Anti-Monitor's destructive wave and was utterly destroyed in this one issue. After, of course, the heroes from Earth 1 and Earth D tried to fight and save a bit of the Earth. In 1999, it was a nice trip down memory lane, especially for people who remember the pre-Crisis universe or miss the original Supergirl and the Silver Age Flash. For those of us now, yeah, $1 is probably about what this baby would be worth, because it doesn't tug on the heartstrings the way it did back then, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch the movie Titanic, but you know that damn ship's going down. So one way or another, you just got to enjoy how they get from A to B. And in this, I do remember enjoying it back in 1999, which is why I figured I'd pick it up. It doesn't have the same oomph it does now. Because, the heroes are there. Barry Allen's back. Nobody cares about the original Kara Supergirl. Everybody on Earth is dead. And of course, everybody nowadays is crying every time something multicultural comes out because, you're jamming it down our throats. Well, this is jam number 1. And if you're an old fart like me and you've never read this, it's definitely worth picking up somewhere. You can find them for a couple bucks on the eBays or on atomicavenue.com. You can actually buy comics off there too, sometimes cheaper than the eBays. It read okay. It segues in okay. It ends up dumping right into Infinite Crisis number 5 very well. And it was kind of nice to go back. The one thing it didn't do is make me want to go read Crisis like right now, because sometimes I'll be reading back issue or one of those comic history of the comic industries, and I'll read something and I'll really, really want to read it. I'm still going to go reread Crisis on Infinite Earths. Don't get me wrong, but it's on our scale of buy, borrow, ignore. I would say if you have no clue what Crisis on Infinite Earths is, you could probably ignore it. If you do, go find it somewhere. I don't think this is a borrow book because I doubt you're going to find it anywhere other than in like $1 or 50-cent bins. So just kind of a little poke from the past. Again, for a buck, it was okay reading, but it didn't have the oomph it did when I originally read it back in 1999. Sometimes it's just not worth going back. Cory?
I reviewed the first issue of a comic called Smooth Criminals from Boom quite a while ago. The series has now ended. It is an 8-issue series. I read the whole thing. It's created and written by Kurt Lustgarten and Kirsten Smith, with art by Leisha Riddell. The premise of the book is that it's set in the late 90s. A computer nerd is basically studying to get her degree. She is told to clean out an old warehouse type closet room, whatever. She stumbles onto a machine, accidentally turns it on, and a person comes out of it in a cat suit from 1969. And in the beginning, they think that it's a time machine, but they find out, no, this international jewel thief is actually been frozen until now. So you have the fish out of water with the international jewel thief kind of learning what life is like in the late 90s. You have the plot of why was she frozen, what's going on, and then they have to put together a heist for reasons that are made evident through the story. This is aimed at, it's kind of a young adult story. It's aimed at older teenagers, I would say 13 to 18. But it is so charming and so fun and so well drawn that I enjoyed it as well. It's you've got that fish out of water thing with the person from the late 60s dealing with the 90s. You have the person from the 90s who's confused about what's going on and basically trying to learn what she's doing with her life. But there is an overall plot that, as the book goes on, unfolds slowly so that you are figuring it out as the characters do. It does set up for another story or two, but the thing that I liked best about it was that it had a strong plot to go with the with what I always call the pitch. The pitch is, here's the gimmick, and the gimmick is, this international jewel thief from the 60s is now in the 90s. A lot of stories would just hang their hat on that and leave it there. But this one actually goes forward with having a complicated crime plot. You as the reader don't know everything that's going on. There are things that don't seem to make a lot of sense in early issues, but in later issues, when it becomes clear, it's, oh, that's what that was about, which to me means that they actually sat down and figured it all out ahead of time, rather than just, okay, then this happens. All right, then what? Okay, then this happens. They weren't plotting it by the seat of their pants. They were actually doing it. They had it all in mind as they were starting to put it together. The art is almost anime, not anime with the big eyes, but anime in that it's very bold lines, not a lot of shading, not a lot of detail, but the characters are all recognizable because they're drawn differently. They look like different people, different body types, different facial types. The art is very confident, almost like an animated movie for grown-ups, an anime without the big eyes, I would call it. But it's really a lot of fun. It's 8 issues. It's going to be in 2 books. So I read it as 2 books. Actually, I read it as the 8 issues because I was able to pick them up cheap during one of our runs. And on the scale of buy, borrow, or ignore, for regular comic readers, I give this a buy. For, I would say, people who are into the older young adult stuff, this is a very big buy. And I look to see more from these creators. Joe?
Cory, how would you like a story pitting the Hulk against the X-Men?
Well, yeah, that could be fun.
How about if we have Alan Davis write it and draw it?
Oh, I like Alan Davis. So, yeah, that sounds fun, too.
It's been done. 2014,
What?
the Savage Hulk second series. He did, I originally thought it was a miniseries. It was 1 through 4. where it was him, Mark Farmer, and Matt Hollingsworth doing a series set about the time of, I guess for better, not to confuse people, but the Neil Adams era of X-Men, where Havoc and
So
Polaris.
late 60s.
Yeah. And
Groovy, Daddy-O.
It was okay, I guess. There was it's supposed to have a startling secret between Professor X's connection to Bruce Banner. And of course, the leader and the Abomination are in it. I was kind of excited to read it, and yeah, it's okay, I guess. I mean, art looks good. Story's okay, I guess. But I don't know. I guess there's a reason why I sell stuff on eBay, and this is one of those reasons, because it was just one of those series. It was like almost like the Legends or the Untold Tales of Spider-Man or whatever. They were just filling in a story, an untold tale that we didn't know about. Even after reading it, I still can't tell you what the secret, what Professor X and his connection to Bruce Banner was. Not a bad read. I bought this originally when it first came out, so that means I probably, my guess is 2014, probably got it through Discount Comic Book Service at a pretty good price. If you can find it, it's worth picking up, especially if that era of X-Men is interesting to you, if you like the old Hulk smash era, rather than the, what do they call him now? The Immortal Hulk?
Immortal Hulk.
Immortal. Now, the people I feel sorry for are the people who did issues 5 and 6, because that was it. After issue 6, they canned it. So I didn't even realize there was an issue 5 and 6, because I think I just bought 1 through 4, figuring, well, okay, it's Alan Davis. I want to pick this up, and I got to admit, even as I'm going through it, the art is beautiful. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. There's a splash page on the last issue where the X-Men are basically all faced off, face to face with the Hulk, and Professor X says, "Everybody remain calm." And of course, basically, they just spent 3 issues getting their ass handed to them by the Hulk. So, I don't know what else to say about it. Like I said, I read it. It's not one that stuck with me. Not one I'm going to reread, but other than the multiple variants, including like a black and white Ross 75th anniversary sketch variant of #1 that prices around $100, you could probably find the regular ones for a couple bucks. Enjoy the art. It's a fun little story, but it didn't really do much for me because, like I said, I read it and I just can't remember it. And folks, I only read it a week ago. It's not a sign of a good book.
So it's a borrow.
Well,
if you want to see the art.
Yeah, again, if you could probably find it, and I'm looking on Atomic Avenues, and none of the regular issues are going for over $1. So again, you should be able to find this somewhere for $1. The variants go from 10 to 100. So if you see that price on there, you're probably looking at one of the variants. And of course, there is a book out that again, you could probably get it from the library, and at least read it, check it out. It may be your cup of tea. It just wasn't mine, and I had more hopes for it because again, it was a classic Hulk. It was not my X-Men because I grew up with the new X-Men, but I'm well aware of the 60s X-Men, the pre-giant size #1 X-Men. So yeah,
the
definitely
giant size #2 X-Men,
or a how would you say, a quarter box buy? Yeah, that's the ticket.
The next book that I'm going to review is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Occult Edition from Archie. It is written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa and drawn by Robert Hack. It is a series that started in 2014. Basically, it's another of the horror books in the horror line of Archie. Came out around the same time as Afterlife with Archie. When Afterlife with Archie became a hit, they said, "Oh, we've we've stumbled onto something here, so they started doing a Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which actually had its roots in the 70s. They did a 2-issue Sabrina horror series. This is kind of the basis for the Netflix series, which I have not watched yet. It takes the idea of Sabrina the Teenage Witch very seriously and uses a lot of, I would say, satanic lore from movies and TV and things like that. I have no idea how much of it's, real, the satanic stuff, but it reminds me a lot of all those 70s movies that came out after the Exorcist, about the power of Satan and everything. And it really delves into that. It really delves into kind of the witchery from pop culture, tying all the way back, of course, to the Salem witch trials. The story unfolds. Each issue either moves the story forward or gives some of the backstory behind the characters as to their motivations and why they are doing the things they are doing. The story is that it's right before Sabrina's 16th birthday, which is when she will basically become a true witch. And she has high school stuff going on. She's got a cute boyfriend. Her aunts are getting her ready for her 16th birthday, where she becomes a true witch. But things start to go bad because it's horror. And Sabrina has an enemy that she doesn't know about because of things that her father did, and she doesn't know anything about her father either. It's 8 issues. The story, for what it is very well done. I am not a huge fan of the art by Robert Hack. I know what he's going for. He's going for kind of a feel of a 70s horror comic / movie, but the art is a little too scratchy and sketchy for me. A lot of the choices he makes for character designs are way too obvious. And the coloring, while I understand what they're going for, the coloring is a little too expressionistic for me. Orange skies and red grass, and everything just seems off to kind of give you the feeling that this world is off kilter. I would recommend this, except it came out in 2014. 8 issues have come out. This trade paperback reprints all 8 issues. It ends on a cliffhanger. Nothing is resolved, and it's starting to look like it never, ever will be, because Roberto Aguirre's Sacasa is working on Katie Keene and Sabrina and Riverdale and all the other TV shows, so he doesn't have time to do the comics. So much like Afterlife with Archie, they started a really cool story that will never, ever be finished. And much like Afterlife with Archie, it's been years since a new issue, so who cares? This is another one of those books where, because there's no ending, it can be as great as it wants, but it's like going to a movie and the last 2 reels are gone, or watching a TV series that ends on a cliffhanger, or reading a series of books and the author just doesn't do the last 2 books. This is an ignore because of that fact. If they would have finished it, given it some sort of closure, I would recommend it. But because there's no closure, I just can't recommend it. It's got to go on the ignore pile. Joe?
Although, if you do want to buy the comics, I'll be putting mine up on the eBay for the exact same reason. I also think I have the source variant up, and it might still be there. It might be sold. Either way. For me, the next one out, we're going to go way back to the heady days of 2018. Phoenix Resurrection. No, not the multi-book from the Malibu line. I'm talking the return of Jean Grey, the miniseries that once and for all would bring Jean Grey back to the living in anticipation of whatever they were going to do with her. Tons of variants, including variants for looks like different stores and things like that. I got the regulars, And I got to tell you something. This is a 5-issue miniseries that's about 4 issues too long. You are better off just grabbing that last issue and reading it, because what happens is a lot of it is what we know she's coming back because it's in the title, but the X-Men don't know that. And as we see Jean in the fantasy world she's built up around her, there's a lot of, oh, is it Jean coming back? It's going to mean this and that and the other. It's kind of interesting because the Logan that they use is Old Man Logan. And at the time, if you recall, Cyclops was dead. So that last issue is kind of the key when Jean realizes what's going on, why she's been brought back to life again, the Phoenix. And her final confrontation with the Phoenix. She gets to say goodbye to the husband who died while she wasn't around. That last issue was really good. The ones leading up to it, just a lot of fill-in. It's almost like they want to, okay, we can't quite push 6-issue series, but let's do 5 so when you get the book, it'll be pretty good. Of course, now she just was alive long enough so she and Cyclops and Wolverine can shack up. But, that back then this was, innocent Jean coming back. Tons of variant covers, so if you're not buying it for, let's take a look. Cover price, $5, you're probably buying one of the variants. There is a book out you can buy with a variant. So on my scale, I would say, even though I bought it, if you can score that 5th issue cheap, it's worth picking up just to read that, because it's a bit of a tearjerker. The rest of it, I would say borrow or ignore, because she's back. She's back, and whatever Hickman's doing, I'm pretty sure this series will have nothing to do with it. So definitely, like I said, it's worth a read. At the time, it was cool because, she was coming back. This was going to be it. There was going to be no more Phoenix, or would there? Although, like I said, it is dated a little bit. I have no idea what happened to Old Man Logan, if he died or went back to whatever. Again, I got to Wikipedia that eventually. So, be that as it may, Cory, what do you got next?
Joe, are you a fan of Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Who? I even got myself a 2x4, but it's too far away. I don't want to have to go get it.
How much do you know about him?
I just know his on-screen persona.
Well, if you want to know more and less, there is a comic coming out, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, from Squared Circle Comics, written by John E. Crowther and drawn by Rich Perrotta. The first issue just recently came out. It begins with the 1988 Royal Rumble. That's right, the first Royal Rumble. And it's Hacksaw Jim Duggan, of course, won that Royal Rumble. And the problem I have with this is the way it's written is kayfabe. It's written as if it's a legit sport. Let me pull up here. It's written first person. So it's, I was met ringside by the legendary Harley Race. A quick forearm sent the king back to the showers. I glanced up at the ring, soaking in the melee that was the Royal Rumble. 20 competitors, beginning with 2 and adding an additional opponent every 2 minutes. A no-holds-barred brawl, wherein each man is eliminated by being tossed over the top rope. A match designed for the hacksaw. Battling in the ring were some of the toughest men in the business. Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, Nikolai Volkov, Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Don Baracco, Dangerous Danny Davis, Sam Houston, and Jake the Snake Roberts. No sweat. As the Rumble progressed, I traded blows with the biggest and the baddest. And it goes on to describe that Royal Rumble in that same fashion as if it's a real sport. Then we flash back to his childhood. This is where, to me, the book got interesting. He talks about how he didn't go to a regular school until he was in his teens because he wanted to play football, and it talks a lot about how he was in high school wrestling and football, and he was scouted by Fritz von Erich. but he never took Fritz up on it because he wanted to be in football. So he didn't get drafted, but he was a walk-on, got injured preseason. So the next year he wasn't picked up, and he went to the Canadian Football League until his career there ended, and that's where the book ends. I like wrestling autobiographies and biographies, and I would have liked this a lot more if it would have been, rather than here's the Royal Rumble where Hacksaw Jim Duggan was able to beat the odds because he's so much better than everybody. If instead it would have been, we did this Royal Rumble, we did it to try and blunt the pay-per-view from WCW. I was the one going over because of this, etc., etc., etc. Instead, we get the stuff in the ring treated real as the stuff in his past. The art is passable. I would call it very early in this artist's career. The likenesses are mediocre. There's not a lot of detail to the art. It relies a lot on the coloring for backgrounds. But I'm going to have to say that this is a borrow at best. Because, let's be honest, Vince McMahon said 25 years ago that he wasn't going to insult our intelligence anymore by insisting that wrestling was real. And when someone's putting out a biography and insists that wrestling was real, it completely turns me off. It really strikes me as, you've been out of the business for a long time. Let it go. Tell your story truthfully. Don't try and piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's like Bret Hart's book. Can you imagine how terrible Bret Hart's book would have been if he would have went, and I had to struggle against Shawn Michaels until I finally defeated him, rather than Bret and I argued backstage about how this match would go. He didn't want to drop the title here. I didn't want to lose the title there, that sort of thing. The backstage drama is more interesting when it's real than if it's, okay, I can go to the WWE Network, I can watch that Royal Rumble, and I could get the announcers treating it like it's real. I would rather know what was going on in your head, what they told you, why you were chosen to win that match, because it really kind of came out of nowhere, and nothing much happened after that. He went back to being, kind of a mid-card babyface. So that's why I'm going to give it a borrow. Maybe it changes in future issues, but as of now, I'm just not interested. Joe?
All right. Cory, you know Joe Kubert?
Yes, I do.
You know Abraham Stone?
I've heard that character's name. I don't think I ever read any of it.
Well, he had 2 issues in 1995 off the Epic line, and then Dark Horse recently published or republished his run of those 2 issues. I'm just looking in the small print in the beginning. Abraham Stone, 2020, Division of Dark Horse. It says it's a first edition, so maybe what I'm reading is wrong. But essentially, Abraham Stone it's set in Western time, written and drawn by Joe Kubert. The reprinting is stuff from the Epic line. Basically, I'll read the back here. Abraham Stone was born on a small farm in Pennsylvania during the late 19th century, the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Railroads stretched their tracks from East Coast to West Coast, from Canada to the Gulf. Telephones, radios are beginning to connect people as never before. A new form of entertainment called movies is all the rage. Abe's family was murdered by robbers and barons. The young boy barely escaped with his life. Now he wanders this great land from New York to the magic of Hollywood, California, past the southern borders to Mexico, where he becomes the unwilling ally of Pancho Villa. One thing's for sure, Abraham Stone looks out for himself. This is one of those books. First of all, yeah, Joe Kubert. That's what plus one. A Western, which I do like Westerns. And it just happened to hit a month where things were slow. So I figured, I'm going to throw my my die in the ring and pick up this book. A absolutely enjoyable read. Lots of fun. The art is incredible. They have the stories, unlike the way they were published at the Epic line, they're put in order the way it happens. So we see the beginning, the origin, more or less, of Abraham Stone, what gets him on his roads, how he wanders about. He's basically kind of wandering across the industrial age United States, getting into adventures, getting out of trouble, getting into trouble, and just a fun read. I mean, he beds a rich woman, who takes him to Hollywood, gets involved in the movie industry. I already mentioned about the Pancho Villa Revolution. He gets cajoled into illicit activities, but retains a nobility and a sense of justice. You're reading the story, you're like, no, don't do that. And then you see how he well, not necessarily redeems himself, but, makes it a little better. Just a fascinating book. My guess is this is it, that although I would love to see more of this character, I don't believe there is anything else. Because, again, Dark Horse had it published under the name of the character, Abraham Stone. Just came out, so you should be able to pick it up or have your comic shop reorder for it. If you like Westerns, if you love Joe Kubert's art, this is really a fun chance, especially if all you've seen is either his, some of his superhero stuff or a lot of his war stuff. This is kind of a nice change of pace to see him doing this. And I'm just Googling to make sure there are no other books, because I believe, let's see, Abraham Stone, Country Mouse. Oh, never mind. I guess that's the book I just talked about from Dark Horse. Also available as a limited from Platinum, if you can find that baby. That's years ago. But on Beg, Borrow, or Ignore. Again, if Westerns aren't your thing, but you want to check out some really good art, go ahead and borrow it. But I put this on my buy list because I actually plunked down my hard-earned currency, and I do have it now in my collection. Mr. Strode, what do you have next?
I am a fan of Judge Dredd. I'm not a huge fan. I don't go and buy every issue of 2000 AD, but I do pick up the Judge Dredd case files when I see them. He's a very one-note character. If you don't know Judge Dredd, if you haven't seen either of the movies or ever read the comic, it is a British comic in the British weekly magazine called 2000 AD. He's been there, I think, since issue 2. And he's kind of the lead character, set in the future when the entire West Coast has become in one big city called Mega City 1. The judges are the cops, and basically they're the cop, they're the jury, they're the judge. They sentence you right there for your crimes in order to keep order in this massive city. It's always been a very satirical series. Dredd himself is a one-note character. He's the best judge there is. He has no sense of humor. He has next to no personality. He is the law. And what happens is the interesting characters all move around him. He's pretty much a fascist because, okay, you broke the law, that's 20 years, or you broke the law and you're not surrendering. You get, they've got specialized guns so they could go flame bullet or, this or that. But it's a satire of whatever they feel like. This book is from IDW, where they have a separate continuity from the British version. This is Judge Dredd Toxic, which was a reprint of a miniseries written by Paul Jenkins, drawn by Marco Castiello. And the gist of the story is that underneath Mega City, all of the chemicals and waste that can't be recycled are sent down under the city, where there are people who pretty much live down there to clean things up, to keep the toxic waste from overwhelming the city. They know that they're going to be hurt by this. It's usually mutants, which is a thing in Judge Dredd, and not X-Men mutants where everybody's got a cool power and some of them are really hot. No, these are mutants in that they've been exposed to toxic waste and radioactivity and the like. So there is a problem down there. Judge Dredd, there's an autopsy of someone who had died who works down there but doesn't look like one of the mutants. So Dredd has to go down to investigate. While they're investigating, they find out that there is an alien that is attaching to some of these people, which repairs them. And because, of course, it's Mega City 1, aliens have to be regulated. So Dredd is, okay, these people have unregulated aliens. We need to arrest the aliens. Here's the difference between Judge Dredd America and Judge Dredd Britain. In Britain, the judges would all be of the same mind. In Judge Dredd America, Judge Anderson is kind of your basic touchy-feely, no, we need to find out what's going on. So she is the counterbalance to Dredd's by the book is all that matters. And because, of course, it is a Judge Dredd story, things spin rapidly out of control to where the people who are down in the down cleaning up the toxic waste, something happens, they aren't able to do it. So the toxic waste is starting to affect the upper parts of it. Some of the people find out that they're illegal, they're illegal aliens. So they are they're not happy with this. Meanwhile, while the people in charge of the city are saying, wait a minute, these aliens are doing a good thing. We need to reach an agreement with them. And the story spins out of that. So you've got the conflict between Judge Dredd and Judge Anderson. You've got the conflict between the people above and the people below. You have the conflict between the people who think, hey, here are these aliens that could fix everything for us, versus people who, they're illegal aliens. Illegal aliens must all be killed, and everybody who helps them needs to die. You've got all of those conflicts as the city, of course, is being overrun with toxic waste. If that intrigues you, you are going to like this book. The art is cleaner than the typical 2000 AD. It's simpler, but I think that works for an American audience, whereas British Judge Dredd art is kind of messier, kind of more raw. It really hypes up on how dirty things are. But the artist here, the stuff above the toxic bottom, everything is pristine, everything is clean, everything is very neon and bright, which gives a good contrast to what's going on below. There are a number of plots going through this. Paul Jenkins, who I remember him from his run on Spider-Man, which some people didn't like, but I really liked, because he really delved into Peter Parker's psychology. You know, why does he tell jokes when he fights? Why is he still haunted by the guilt of Uncle Ben dying? Here, he digs into the psychology of the different characters and how that creates conflict rather than just the surface conflict. It is about a 5-issue miniseries. It's a 100-page graphic novel. So with IDW, their graphic novels are always just a little overpriced, which is the only drawback. But I really liked the story. I thought it was very well done. There is some rather ham-fisted and pointed satire, which is exactly what I expect from Judge Dredd. If you've read the Judge Dredd stuff from 2000 AD, it's not subtle at all, and neither is this. So you need to be prepared for that. And it's another one of those things where if somebody read it with, hey, comics aren't supposed to be political, well, then you've never read Judge Dredd before, because even starting back in 1977, they were doing political satire all the time. So this, to me, gets a buy, which is kind of rare because I find most of the IDW Judge Dredd stuff to be kind of watered down Judge Dredd. And if I want Judge Dredd, I want the pure stuff. But I think Paul Jenkins did a really good job of kind of taking what makes the American version of Dredd different and highlighting it for the story rather than just, we're trying to make the story a little more cuddly for U.S. audiences. Joe?
I always thought people were essentially bright. Distracted, sure, and weak and beaten, but never stupid. And then you show them, here's the two people who want to be president. One is evil, but you can deal with him because he actually harbors beliefs. The other one will tell any lie, wear any mask to become president. And not only, he fucking hates you. And he's doing this just so he can make your lives hell. And who do you think they vote for? Stupid. Time was I thought maybe people were worth, I don't know. No, this podcast hasn't disturbingly become political. I am reading the text from Transmetropolitan Book 3, republished by DC Vertigo on volume number 3. Warren Ellis, Derek Robertson, Rodney Romeros, Nathan Eyring. In case you've been living under a stone, and after what's going on lately might be the best, the Transmetropolitan takes its title from a rowdy song by Irish rockers, the Progues, bases its main character on legendary gonzo journalist Dr. Hunter S. Thompson. And I think a little bit of Doonesbury Uncle Duke thrown in as well. Transmetropolitan positions itself squarely at the acid-etched edge of 1990s hip culture. It follows the adventures of psychotic writer Spider Jerusalem in the nightmarish near future, which may or may not be here. A cyber nightmare world of drugs, aliens, androids, mutants, technology gone mad, and a lot more drugs. It's high-octane writing by Warren Ellis, beautiful artwork by Darren Robertson.
Oh, Derek Robertson's art in that blew me away. Just blew me away. It was so alive, and the characters just seem very three-dimensional with his art.
It is incredible, some of the and unless you have $103 for that number one, which I remember selling in my comic store, because this came out originally as part of DC's Helix imprint, which was more science fiction based, but when it kind of collapsed on itself, it became Vertigo. I am reading this for the first time. I've talked about, I read issue 1, or I should say book 1. I plowed through book 2, and I was reading book 3, and I ran across that, what I just read to you. And folks, this was written about 20 years ago. I swear some of you probably thought I was talking about what's going on now. I don't know if I should give kudos to Warren Ellis or kick him in the balls because of other reasons, but just that it's like we're just repeating what's been done before. Of course, we don't have the drugs that lead to, psychotic cyber nightmares with aliens, androids, mutants, technology gone mad, and more drugs. The series is just phenomenal. I am buying it as DC is republishing it. I know with all the bullshit Ellis has been pushing that I hope they keep publishing it. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised because I know when I reviewed issue 2 a while back, I was wondering if I'd ever see 3. That next week, issue 3 came out. And as I was sitting reading that, I was like, I just had to stop and go, am I living a deja vu? Well, I guess I am. If you've never read Transmetropolitan, I do believe you owe it to yourself to check it out. I know you might be quasi Warren Ellison, but be pro Derek Robertson and check it out. And I'm eagerly awaiting book 4. I don't think I've ordered it yet. And I know, Cory, you told me if they decide, no, we're not going to do it, I can always find the reprint somewhere. Because what I like about this, and same thing I like about Justice League and Green Lantern and some of the other ones that DC's doing, is that this is their current printing, so I can buy them all together and just go with that. So I definitely put this on if you don't want to own it, definitely borrow it. I'm just going to buy it as the graphic novels. Did they ever do omnibuses on this?
No, they did not. I
Oh,
think they might have done an absolute, but I'm not
okay.
100% sure.
And according to what I'm looking at, there will eventually be 10 books. So I'm on book 3, and I'm just along for the ride. It's almost like buying it as it comes out because I have no idea where they're going with it, and I know I could Wikipedia it or just go out and buy the other ones, but I'll just wait if DC's going to publish more. See, DC, this is how you get my money. Cory, what you got for your last one?
The last book I have, Joe, what is when I say Insane Asylum DC Comics, what do you say?
Insane Asylum?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like Arkham.
Right, Arkham Asylum. Marvel has their own that they use off and on here and there once in a while called Ravencroft. And this spring, they did a...
Cory, hang on a second. We just got a hit from all the Harry Potter fans. No, this has nothing to do with Harry Potter. Yes, it's Time Warner or AT&T Warner Time, whatever. So, sorry.
Actually, no, Ravencroft is Marvel. And it came out in the 80s.
Ooh.
So it was actually used way back in the 80s by Marvel. They have used it off and on since. But recently this spring, they did an event to kind of bring it back. Written by Frank Thierry, who's written for Marvel on and off over the last 20 years. And drawn by artists I've never seen before, Angel Unzuta and Jose Luis, with Scott Hanna as the inker. Scott Hanna, I, of course, have seen before. It starts with 4 one-shots, one about Dracula, one about all these different characters, explaining why Ravencroft was kind of this cursed land and giving the history of everything up to now. And then the 5-issue miniseries explains it being rebuilt. I understand the need for a place like this, kind of like how in the 80s they also had The Vault. Do you remember The Vault, Joe?
Well, yeah, they blew it up right before Bendis got the Avengers running.
Yeah. So they've always had, okay, where do we put people? The criminals go to the Vault. Crazy people go to Ravencroft. They brought it back. The story is about there's a dark secret on the land. There is a dark secret from when it was running before, and now that it has been rebuilt, that dark secret is coming out. You've got a hodgepodge of heroes who are there to kind of solve the problem, including Man-Wolf. I shouldn't complain because it did get us that Man-Wolf trade paperback. The story is okay. I'm going to rate the story as a borrow, partly because it seemed to come out of nowhere, and it was padded. It was way too long. It could have been done in 4 issues. Instead, we got 4 issues of a prequel and 5 issues of a regular series, so that's 9 issues. It's very stretched out. A lot of the past is very cliche. The secret is not all that big a secret, and in some ways doesn't quite fit for what Ravencroft should be. This is one of those stories where it's very clear they went, okay, we need this to come back so that we can use it in other stories. Let's make it an event to bring it back. And these events don't seem to really gel. One of the problems I had with 90s Marvel comics was that, okay, we're doing this book to fill in continuity gaps. And in a lot of ways, this felt like they were putting together a story to fill in continuity gaps. It ties into the Kingpin series that fell apart. You've got villains like Taskmaster, who's everywhere now, Scorpion, Moonstone, and Hobgoblin. But they just come off as kind of generic villains rather than the cool villains that they have been. Moonstone was a psychiatrist who would manipulate people. Hobgoblin used to be one of the coolest characters at Marvel, and now he's just kind of a forgotten guy who throws pumpkin bombs. And Scorpion, they did such good work making him interesting to where now he's just generic bad guy. So at the end of it, we've got this place to put the crazies in the Marvel Universe, but the story getting us to that just doesn't seem to be worth the effort. This is a borrow. Once it's collected as a trade, pick it up at the library. If you want to read a decent superhero story that'll take you about an hour, set in the Marvel Universe. It really feels like a early 2000s Marvel book where, okay, here you go, here's an idea, not completely fleshed out. The art is kind of generic mediocre for this period of Marvel, which is a shame because Scott Hand is such a good inker, but it's going, much like the story, it feels like they're just going through the motions. There's nothing exciting about it. The art doesn't pull you in. It's not bad. It's not poorly done. It looks nice. There's just nothing unique about it that made me care. So again, this is a borrow, just kind of a generic Marvel comic book with, here's 5 heroes we haven't used in a while. Here's 5 villains we haven't used in a while. Here's a story that'll set up stuff for the future. Joe?
That's it.
Oh, you're done?
Well, we got 5.
You don't have any more?
You want more? I can always pick out more, but
You know who does have more?
Who's that?
These guys, our sponsors. Believe it or not, kids, this here podcast has sponsors. And that sponsor, since day one, is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best, bar none, web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a website, head on over to DreamHost.com, put in code CRAYZ, that's Krayz, and get $20 off your first year. Now, if you would like to advertise here on any of the Solitaire Rose Network podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. Also, head on over to eBay and look for user Krayz, Krayz. That's Joe Crazy Writer, who's always telling us about the eBay in every episode of Crazy Comics and Stories. If you would like to contact us, you can do so. You can give us a call at 952-856-0519. Leave a message and we'll play it on the show. Or you can send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. You know who else has more?
Well, my guess would be is there are more podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network.
Why, yes, there are. And here's me talking about them. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is filled with all kinds of audio goodness. First, there's Crazy Comics and Stories. It's been going since 2010. It drops every Monday, and it has me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, and Joe Crazy Writer talking comics, shenanigans, and whatever we're freaking and geeking about. Every Monday morning. It's been going since 2010, and it's available at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. Also on that same feed is the Solitaire Rose Podcast, which is me, again, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, doing interviews, talking about comics history, pretty much talking about whatever I want to talk about. We've also got Solo Joe, where Joe Crazy Writer does a solo podcast, and he hasn't done one in a while, so kick him in the shins to get him started. We also, on that same feed, have Solitaire Rose Series and Review, where we do DVD commentary of older comic book series. That's all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. I also do a podcast with Wolfie B. Bad at badadvice.solitairerose.com, where we take listener questions and give them bad advice. There's also Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. There's also Fantastic Forecast, where myself and Adam Vermillion are going through the entire run of the Fantastic Four 4 issues at a time. That's fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. And if you think that I'm on all of these podcasts, you're wrong, because Scrabbling Across the West is at scrabbling.solitairerose.com, where musician Dave Cofell and his wife Stephanie travel across America and then sitting down to play Scrabble and talk about the day. That's at Scrabbling Across the West, scrabbling.solitairerose.com. There are always more podcasts at the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network. Be there. Aloha.
When you say I don't pay attention.
And if you want more, you can always go and ask Joe. Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Lots. I could sit here and tell you the last. Seriously, I must have sold close to 100 items. A lot of them are things we've talked about. For example, we've talked in the past about Squadron Supreme, Mark Runwell's series from 1985. I had the original run, not the Captain America crossover, but I do have it in book form, the one where they put his ash in. So I ended up selling it. I sold almost all my Scooby-Doo team-ups, which the early issues go for silly, silly money because nobody was buying it. Nobody was paying attention. I sold my ROM IDW 1 through 6 because nobody cares. It went for way below what I paid for it, but that's just the way it goes. Sometimes I sell something like weird, like the Nakotai, the Jungle Girl from 1952 with a photo cover from the movie of the same name. This is one of those Fawcett books that they had right before Fawcett went belly up after battling DC for all those times. The key with this, and this is something, Cory, how often do you watch something on the eBays?
Rarely.
There's a reason why you want to, and it's not necessarily because you care, but if I see that somebody's watching something, I can send you an offer. I've told people about how you can always send me an email and say, hey, Joe, I listened to your show through the eBay system. I understand you like boxes of Cheez-Its. Would you consider taking $20 for your mint copy, action number 1, of which nobody ever realized existed, but because you listened, I listened onto your show, you're willing to sell this multi-million-dollar books for just a little bit above 12 cents. So yeah, again, that's a good way to do it. But another reason to watch is I can go through, and here's what I did. Over 100 plus people who are watching items, I made offers just out of the blue. And I had such a response. It was just amazingly overwhelming. Blew out a lot of old stock, gave some people some tremendous deals. More of those Dynamite magazines I had, Wacky Raceland from DC, that 2016 that I would say, even if you were a Wacky Raceland fan, ignore it. A lot of variant covers, some Tarzan, the Joe Kubert stuff that he did for DC. I sold a 0 Hour that was Marty Nodell, the creator of the Golden Age Green Lantern. When he would get these, he would draw a big lantern and then sign Green Lantern and his name. Just a ton of stuff. Some things, I probably undersold it. Some things I'm just glad they're gone. But there's always more because I've been putting tons of stuff on the eBays. If you listen to last week's podcast, we didn't even get to the comic shop that we were heading to. But I'll talk a little bit on geeking. I made another comic run. And what happens is when I go through it, and if it's something I've read already or it's something like the Sabrina Chilling Adventures of that, I've got all the issues. I just not going to hang on to them. I just put them on the eBays. And again, as to your listeners of this here show, just let me know you're listening. I'll toss in an extra something special when you are buying something, or if you want to make an offer like somebody did just as we were podcasting. He saw I had Dynamite Magazine number 55 up. He said, hey, you had it for 13. Would you consider this? And I said, sure. And that's how Kray rolls. Speaking of it, KRAYZ, you can find it. Lots of ways to link to it. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No. Not where I quip quit recording and go play the Looney Tunes game on my tablet.
Is it any good?
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm still on a Simpson game. I guess that's good enough for me. I'm having fun with that.
No, it's Freaking a Geeking, Joe. What are you freaking on?
I didn't want to pollute my eBay section with it, but man, there's some weird chuckleheads out there on eBay. I had one guy, and again, this was my faux pas. I bought something, and as soon as I bought it, I realized, son of a building block, I already have it. So I canceled the sale. I sent him a note. So he sent me back a nasty note. That's not poor eBay etiquette. How dare you do that? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, that's why I sent you the note. You know, block me and I'll never buy from you again. Cory, how often when you go to Target do they chew you out because you had to return something or cancel something?
Never.
I know. You just don't do that. As annoying as it is, folks, I've been on eBay since the second year it was happening, and I've had that happen to me. You got to roll with it. Seriously, I had thought that I would take the guy's name and say, hey, guys, tell him Crazy sent you. Look at his store, maybe buy something. But as time went on and my umbrage fell, I just I don't care. You know, that's not the way you treat your customers, even if they did blank on you. And the sad part was I was looking through his store trying to figure, maybe I'll buy something else, But when we get to geeking, I do buy things, but we'll get to that later. Another eBay thing, other than the fact that 99% of people never leave feedback. If I send something out and you don't get it, people accuse you. You haven't sent it. What are you trying to do? Steal from me? Yes. After being on eBay since 1998 and having over 5,400 unique positive feedbacks, I've decided to go rogue on your $8 order. Congratulations. Suck it up. No, that just doesn't happen. 99% of the time, it's the post office. I say that not to knock the post office, but as you know, we have administration that just placed somebody in charge of post office that basically cut all the overtime. Again, this has nothing to do with our tax dollars because for the most part, the post office is a self-running organization. It's what we want of our government. It doesn't cost us. It doesn't give excess. It just runs. But man, there's people in the government that are just working their damnedest to destroy it. And that's one of them. Another one is I tell people, mistakes are made. I had one time where I mailed out some orders. I got home, found out they'd been delivered. And I called up and I said, boy, you guys either are teleporting stuff or you're really doing a great job. He goes, no. What happens is they scan everything that has a barcode. And if he probably hit the wrong one. So it meant to say you're getting it. Generally what I do is I tell people, hey, 30 days, just wait. If you don't get it in 30 days, I'll just give you a refund. And I've had 3 people just go apeshit on me. They're, again, accusing me of lying. I'm stealing. I'm going to take their money. I'm going to disappear. Yes, after being on eBay for over 20 years, I'm just going to disappear with your $10. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Oh, now look, you made me do Marge Simpson. That's how pissed off I am. And the thing is, with the exception of one person, I said it wrong. Every item showed up within the 30 days. One didn't. It never scanned. And what can I do? Take the guy. I suspect he just took it and realized that if I can't prove it was delivered, eBay's going to give him a refund anyway. So he just hounded me till I gave him a refund to get him off my ass. And the key is if he comes back at me and says, hey, I heard what you said in the podcast. Ha! I know you knew about it because I put a flyer for our podcast in every order. So that's how I prove you got it. But again, out of all the guys who got my shit after I've given them a refund, only one of them ever contacted me to say, hey, I got my order. How can I get your money to you? Here's a little sad fact. eBay doesn't allow you to do that. Once I give a refund, it's done. Again, refunds are just part of the job. I've had things get sent out. The worst one I had, and I don't recall if I ever complained about it, it looked like somebody took the guy's comic book. And Cory, you've seen the boxes I use. I use those S165 U-line boxes. They're pretty sturdy. It looked like somebody put this through one of those old-fashioned clothes ringers, those automatic circumcisers that we used to panic as kids. The thing was bent into a U, and there was no way the comic could have survived. I was like, I told the guy, I almost want this back just to take it to the post office and say, what the fuck did you do to my package? As it was, I just gave him his refund. The book he wanted is worthless as a collectible. So yeah, eBaying can be frustrating that way. And believe me, at the beginning, I took it all personal. Now it just built up to the point where it just pissed me off. I rarely go off like that, and that's why I saved it for the freaking portion. I hope a lot of you listen to the eBay part, because sometimes we get into fun stuff, especially when I eBay a book like I've never talked about anywhere else on the podcast. But it's just something I'm freaking on. It kind of takes it down, and I don't want it to be a negative thing, but sometimes it is. But then I stop and I look. I said, okay, you got over 5,000 people that are happy, not to mention the thousands and thousands of people who never take the time to just give me some fucking feedback. Okay. Freaking number 2, if you have a eBay store, or I should say, let's take it back. You're on Facebook pushing your store. It doesn't matter if it's a retail store, an online store, or like me, just doing eBay. If you have a physical store and you have hours, make sure the hours are right. Last Friday, what happened actually a couple weeks ago, Friday, I've talked about before at work, where what they're doing is that we're all coming into work, and then they decide whether or not they need us based on sick calls, volume, whatever. To me, it's kind of stupid, because that means all of us now are together for a while and have a better chance of getting infected, even though Minnesota is now on a mandatory face mask order, and the MAC Commission, again, a semi-quasi agency is in control of the airport, has already done that. So if you're in the airport, you have to wear a mask, regardless of what the airlines say. TSA ain't the mask police. We're not going to go after you, but we've been wearing a mandatory mask for months. And if you've ever gone through recently, at least in Minneapolis, we all wear these plastic face shields if you have to be in public view.
Yep.
I don't have to wear one much, but I'm underground a lot of time, but I do have to keep the mask on unless I'm eating. Again, which is another minor freaking. If you go to the break room, you got guys shoulder to shoulder eating without a mask, because they all break at the same time and they're all crowded into a room. And I don't go to that break room anymore. The point being, if you're on Facebook pushing your hours, make sure they're correct, because I got off work. They sent me home early. So I went all the way from, I'm not going to name the store, but it was a long trip from the southern part of the Twin Cities to the northern part on the freeway, but through 35W, which is a no man's land of construction and lane changes and people driving like assholes, only to get there in a truck. And Cory knows how my truck likes to run in 90-degree heat, only to find out they changed their hours. And I'm like, I haven't been back, mainly because I just had other places to go, which you'll find out when we get to geeking and when we go back to last week's podcast, which, again, we haven't gotten to the comic shop yet. I've got money to spend, people. If you're not going to be open, you're not going to get none. Final thing I'm kind of crabby about. I love Sabrina the Teenage Witch. There's a thing online on the Facebooks that pop up every so often where they're selling artwork, the cells from these shows. And they're going to be, it's like years ago at Toys R Us, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cells showed up for a ridiculously low price, like about $10 or $20, which for a cell from a unique cell from a animated show is pretty good. Well, this place has gotten a hold of a ton of these cells, and the first show they're doing is Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I would buy one, but you're never sure what you're going to get. With the ones they were selling and I think it was Toys R Us at the time, you could choose which one you want. This one, they're just saying, yeah, for $20, you're getting an original cell, one of a kind. Reason why we're doing is there's thousands of these things, and we're just selling them. And they got shows coming up that they're going to be doing. If I knew I could get a decent one of Sabrina, I would probably say, hey, I would like to do one. But I'm not going to shoot $20 at you all the time in hopes that I get one. That being said, I'm very, very disappointed with Archie because they canceled the Complete Sabrina Volume 2, a book that both Cory and I were geeking on way back when we were doing a previews. I'll give a no prize to Joe Prize, whoever wants to dig that out, because we almost got the Joe Prizes. They're on their way. So if I've ever promised you a Joe Prize, we'll be talking about that when I have the things in my hand, because I owe about a dozen of you a Joe Prize. Cory, I don't know if this is going to lead into your geeking, or your freaking, but let's do it. We had talked about this, and you thought that Archie was going to go Kickstart route or crowdfund?
Yeah. I'm hearing rumors that they're starting to say, for our upcoming stuff, we'll kickstart it. And I'm at the point where you shouldn't even start stuff until you know you can finish it. I no longer buy a new Archie series until it's done. I mean, the Archie Katie Keene. Where's the last issue of that? Where's Archie Afterlife with Archie? Where's Occult, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? Where are these books? How about the Adam Hughes, Betty and Veronica? 2 issues and then, that's it. Why bother if you're not going to put out enough for even a complete story? I'm not going to bother buying.
What was the one that they were going to do? They're going to go back to the classic Archie style. And one issue, I think, came out. Maybe a couple of Christmas ones, and that was gone.
If you're having trouble, I understand. But putting out books and then we'll have a new issue out in maybe 3 years. I
thought it was funny, too, when you said that. Because Archie got in a lot of heat when they started to do a Kickstarter or something on one of their books. Because they were like, oh, no, this is for small independent guys. This isn't for big publishers to do stuff. Well, I don't know. Lady Death does a ton of stuff. That's all they do, Coffin Comics. With
Lady Death doesn't have 3 TV series.
No, but they also make a lot of money, and you should see the swag and the stuff that they give away with everything. So if that's going to be your business model, Archie, again, we don't know this hookup of Archie, the comic. That may be the problem in the comics, is that everybody's going to TV. We've long said TV gives you more money than a comic. But the Complete Sabrina was all reprints.
Yeah.
Again, if sales were bad enough, or nobody but me and Cory were the only 2 people in existence that even ordered it, yeah, that's fine. But no, I'm with you on this one, Cory. It's rare we have an overlap in freaking, but continue with whatever is honking you off this week.
You know how when we were driving from Chaska to Hopkins, Butch told the story of the 2.5-year-old in his underwear who ran outside screaming, "Fucker man!
Fucker man!" Yes.
When you took one of those curves really fast and Butch picked up the recorder, he hit stop on it.
Oh!
All of that discussion is gone.
Well, to be fair, it was as funny as it was. It probably was going to give us. It probably was not ready for prime time.
I don't care. I'm mad because I thought that was funny. Was the highlight of the trip, where we just for 25 minutes mapped out the
adventures of Fucker Man.
On Facebook, I am in a number of groups about older comics. I'm in the Timely Atlas group. I'm in the, what is that one? Marvel from 61 to 85. Old guys who like old comics. Some moron chowderhead posted, "I don't like the fact that comics are so political. Man, you know, when you read a Jack Kirby comic or a Stan Lee comic or a Neil Adams comic, you didn't know their politics. Really? You didn't? Then you're a moron. Neil Adams did a story. You know, look at the Green Lantern Green Arrow. He had an environmentalist story that ended with the environmentalist being crucified on the back of a plane. He did a story where the bad guy was a child that looked exactly like Nixon being controlled by an adult that looked like Spiro Agnew. He did a story about Speedy becoming a junkie. As for Jack Kirby, I've talked about it endlessly. Kirby's Captain America beat the crap out of Hitler a year before we went into World War II. I want to remind people what was going on a year before we went into World War II. IBM was building computers for Nazi Germany so that they could track prisoners. Henry Ford had won an award from Germany for teaching them efficiency. Prescott Bush, George Bush Sr.'s dad, was in the Senate pushing people to do business with Nazi Germany like he was because they were fighting the communists. And here's Jack Kirby. We're going to have Captain America punching Hitler in the face on the cover because I'm Jewish. Everybody here in the publishing company is Jewish. And we know what's going on over in Germany because our relatives are letting us know. And we want people to start hating Germany for this. Or in the 70s with the New Gods, Darkseid was based on Richard Nixon. Glorious Godfrey was based on Billy Graham. The Harrys were based on the biker gang down in the canyon near where he lived, where they would ride their motorcycles all night, and he got mad that they were, revving their motorcycles and causing trouble until he went down, started talking to them, and said, hey, these kids are pretty cool. Put them in the Jimmy Olsen book. The Forever People are based on hippies. The story from Captain America 193 to 200, the Mad Bomb story, is about why it would be bad for the rich to control America. Stan Lee shoving his humanistic stuff in every Silver Surfer story. And don't get me started on Steve Ditko. Well, Steve Ditko stuff wasn't political. Anybody who says comics weren't political when you were a kid, no, you were just stupid. You didn't know what the stories were about. The X-Men was about prejudice and bigotry. Black Panther was about Black Panther fought the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, on and on and on. The first Secret Empire story, the leader of the Secret Empire was Richard Nixon, who committed suicide in the Oval Office of the White House. There is a reason why Mark Grunwald had Ronald Reagan turn into a snake in Captain America in the 80s. He hated Reagan. Hated him. Comics have always been political. Always, always, always. So just stop saying that, well, I don't know Jack Kirby's politics. Well, then you're an idiot. And you must not have ever read his stuff, or you weren't paying any attention.
And if I may quote Eric Idle, it's nice to be an idiot.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like the same people who say, well, I don't like that Star Trek's got all these liberal values. Oh, my God, did you ever watch Star Trek? Joe, what you geeking on?
Well, I keep referring to what we were geeking on when we went down. Well, we were on our way to Mankato, of course, and part of what we were doing is we visited a couple shops in Hopkins, with Mankato being our goal, and I had a lot of fun digging through stuff. And it's kind of like, you figure, okay, I've been collecting comics in 1978. Yeah, I sold a lot of them, but why? What would I possibly buy? Well, I decided to push it again because Captain Jack's had, I don't know if he called it a garage con or what he did is he rented
just
this
garage sale.
Garage sale. And he laid out all his books. He did it on a Saturday, Sunday. I didn't go on Saturday. I thought about it, but I'm glad I didn't because it was really crowded. A lot of people went in. They said, it's all newer stuff and whatever. I went in and I left with a long box of things. And people were like, what the heck did you buy? I actually did something I don't normally did. I did a Facebook video on, what's the name of oh, dang it, I had it loaded up here. I think it's the Minnesota Comic Book Squad.
Yeah, Minnesota Comic Book Squad.
And I showed off some of the things that I had picked up. For example, one of them was a series called Grosse Pointe. Cory, have you ever read that series?
No.
I didn't know about it either. And as I'm sitting there trying to get the Kray 4000 to behave, one of these days I'm going to bitch about. If you ever see a rant from me on Facebook and it's horribly misspelled or doesn't make sense, it's because my phone spell check took over. Anyways, Grosse Pointe was published 97 and 98 about the Pickett family. Howard, Charmaine, and their two teenage children, Brian and Terry. They arrive in Grosse Pointe where Howard is to start a new job. He hopes this move will mean a fresh start and a chance for his family to become part of the community. But the parts that make up this community don't seem to fit all that well. There's the house shaped like a giant duck, a lighthouse that shines all night even though it's nowhere near water, and the mall with stores like What's That Smell?, Enigma Farms, and Socks Aplenty. And it sounds like basically a lot of the jokes are derived from the normalcy of this family in a town that appears to be inhabited by escapees from the Addams family. So I was at Captain Jack's. As I'm digging through, I'd occasionally run into runs of stuff, and I picked up a ton of miniseries. I picked up a ton of stuff like Dork Tower, which I don't have a lot of, but I love reading. And I'm imagining miniseries in the future I'll be either referring to either as on eBay or just things that I read, kind of like what I did today. I've never read Grosse Pointe. This was totally off my radar in 97. I couldn't even tell you if I ordered it for my shop. It's 14 issues. There's an ash can. Never done again in a trade. Writers, Mark Waid, Rick Parker, various artists. Joe Stanton did a couple, but Mark Wayne seems to be the overall voice once you get to about issue 3. And I'm really, really excited to see what this is like. I mean, as I'm looking this up, again, I went through, when I got to Captain Jack's, there weren't a lot of people there, which was good because I'm a little worried about the COVID stuff. I had my mask on, which was mandatory, but I was able to just dig, and I got through all the boxes, which he was impressed with because a lot of people come in, they kind of pick 1, 2, 3, and then they go. But I just saw this. I looked on Atomic Avenue. He had all 14 issues there. I said, why not? $1 a piece, $14. I've spent worse things on $14. Not on a box of Kaboom cereal, which I'm a little sore about. But, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. I got tons of other things. I got some variant covers. I got a few other runs of things. Actually filled a couple holes I'm missing. The Marvel Now version of Spider-Man 2099 never got issue 12. I don't know if I just stopped at 11 or just 12 is sitting in a box somewhere I've yet to uncover. I filled a couple holes in my Star Wars. I was missing Princess Leia #1, and in the Marvel Star Wars 2 and 3, the first run. I know what happened. I probably nabbed one of those super rare, hot, hundreds of dollar variants, and I sold it. So now years later, when I'm like, I think I'll sell the run, I'm missing #1. Well, Captain Jack hooked me up. I said I was missing these. He went into. I did miss out on one. There was the Avenger run where I think it was Marvel Now where they went into the future to try to stop their kids because they were messing up and winning against, or Ultron was killing them. And I missed I must have gotten rid of it on the purge because I got 1 through 5 and I don't have issue 6. And contrary to popular belief, trying to find a single back issue outside of the eBays is real tough because every comic shop I hit, nobody's got them. Who would? They're not worth anything. So that was fun. I went to Captain Jack's. you're going to hear the next time Cory mixes the hodgepodge that is our trip to Mankato about our trip and the visit of the shops there. And on the return trip, we hit the, well, we'll leave it as a surprise. I did run into a couple guys from the MCBA coming out of the Captain Jack GarageCon. We did talk for a bit. They're kind of bummed, no con this year, but they're working to work on next year's con, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. Just because it's something they've done for years doesn't mean they're necessarily going to bring it back. I know the one thing, they're probably not going to do the grab bag. So if you're one of those guys who likes to get there early to get a grab bag, I think they're pretty much done with that. Really, when the grab bags were hot, the cool thing about it was you could go in and see which shops put in what kind of exciting things. I mean, I remember I put in snow scrapers. We did that scratch off sale, the Triangle of Terror one year. Just all sorts of different fun things. But nowadays with social media, a lot of that's passe. So, you know, they're going to put their efforts into other fun things, including an MCBA store, which was intriguing, but they wouldn't tell me anymore because they know anything they tell me I put right on this here eBay or on the podcast here. So, but yeah, they're going to keep us in the loop. And I thought just for the hell of it, since today's been kind of I don't know, we talked more about things we didn't like than things we liked. And I had a little bit of eBay bitching, but I've got some eBay fun things to talk about. For example, this year's San Diego 2020 Hot Wheel variant. Last year, was it last year or 2 years ago? The infamous Thanos copter. I don't remember. This year was the Incredible Hulk and Rocket Raccoon sitting in the back of that Land Rover as they were driving into New Asgard from the Avenger movie. Now, what was cool this year was that you could try to get on the Hot Wheels site and actually order a couple, because I think they originally were $25. Unfortunately, I was at work and I couldn't get my phone to cooperate, and I've tried getting on Hot Wheel websites when they do the deadline. Oh, you're lucky if you do. So I found a cheap guy on eBay and I just ordered one, and it won't be delivered for a while, but I'm fine with that because I'm pretty happy. I mean, just to get it looks cool. I ordered and got a original Supergirl sketch from Rich Buckler on an envelope. It's of Supergirl, and it's on a Supergirl stamp from the New York Comic-Con. It says exclusive edition, 1 of 5 from the vault. I have a version that Dick Giordano. Did I say the name right?
Yeah.
Hey, I got one right. And it's in my Supergirl Facebook page album if you want to look at it. And I haven't got a chance to scan the Rich Buckler one, but it's going to go there as soon as I can. Another variant I didn't think I would get, Savage Dragon 250. Now, there were about 5-6 variants that came out, but the rare one was the green blank cover version. Rare in the fact that shops couldn't order them. I'm still not sure how you got one, but there was only 250 made. And I went to the eBays, found a cheap guy selling it, ordered it, and sat back with my fingers crossed because it was only 250. Well, somehow this guy got me and hooked me up. So I was very happy to get that. And I can still say, I believe, with the exception of some of the newsstand variants I have, which basically were just the same cover with a news UPC symbol on it. I have them all, which is cool. Oftentimes I rant and rave about my love of the series Love and Capes. Well, I did something. I took my individual issues, 7 to 13 and a half, and I went and bought Love and Capes Volume 2. So I have Volume 1, 2, and 3, all in volume forms, and I put all my issues on the eBays, including some oddball variants. So if you are looking to fill a collection, go check it out. A couple of them were actually signed by Tom Zahler himself. Now I have the Love and Capes Volume 2, so when I get the urge, I can just, excuse me, Cory whips out his giant size man thing. I'm going to whip out my Love and Capes. I'm a sucker for MASH, the TV show. I watch MASH over and over. My wife and I just started it again. Usually it's just our feel-good thing before we go to bed. A guy had a custom MASH Hot Wheel that he was selling. I say custom because no, there never was one. There was a MASH Matchbox, and there was also a company called Z Toys, which did a bunch of MASH little tiny plastic bits. This guy's diecast was pretty sweet. He actually was asking a pretty cheap price. What he did is he put a neat picture of the cast behind it. Was able to get MASH Hot Wheels on. Only made a couple of them, so I picked one up, and it's sitting on my shelf of honor. I was talking about those Z toys as well. What was cool about them is that when you bought the sets, they had like a little latrine that went with it. You know, it said enlisted on one side, officers on the other. They also have, I believe, a swamp set, which I haven't seen. And they also had one where they had the hospital. You know, it was a big, like a tin prefab building. And these are really, really tiny toys, but I do remember buying them in the 70s when I used to walk down to the local Kmart to buy different toys and stuff. And so it was kind of fun. So I'm not the only guy buying on the eBays. I'll pimp it one more time. Crazy, K-R-E-Y-Z. Cory, what you geeking on?
This weekend was San Diego, Joe.
I wasn't there, just like I wasn't there for WrestleMania.
No one was there. But they put all of the panels online. And it's phenomenal. I have a couple little nitpicky things, such as when they said, well, the con says we only have this much time left.
We're all out of time. I wonder if it was a bandwidth thing.
No, because they're on YouTube.
Oh.
They're on YouTube. Most of them were recorded over the last couple of months. I know Mark Evanier said that he had recorded all of his with it. I think the last one he recorded was like 3-4 weeks ago. And many of the ones that I watched talked about how, well, you know, it's late June, or it's early July right now when we're recording this. But it was just fantastic to have these panels. Of course, the funniest one was the one that I tuned into on time. Because most of them, you know, I've been watching, you know, when I get done with work or everything. But the Star Trek panel, it's like, okay, this is my lunch period. I'll tune it in. I go to YouTube. It says, this video has been taken down due to a copyright complaint of CBS. And it was down for like 15 minutes until they got that fixed. And it was such a big story that I actually saw it on my news feed. Because I put up, hey, that's probably a problem. And somebody said, oh, no, they got it fixed. And they got it fixed after like 15 minutes or so. But I was like, oh, maybe it was just my computer. But then on my news feed, it's like, nope, it was for everybody.
Could go in there, CBS.
You can still go out there and watch all of those panels. And I think next week I'll have a list of the ones that I really liked. Any of the ones by Mark Evanier are ones you should watch, especially the Jack Kirby tribute panel. But there was another panel that I'll link in the notes that is about the Lee Kirby dynamic, where they talk about something the fans have been arguing about forever. Who did what between Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. And one of the panelists said something that I absolutely adored, and it stuck with me, because it said, we hate ambiguity. And this dispute will never stop because we hate ambiguity. And the more I think about it, the more it's true. We want facts. Well, there aren't facts if you aren't there, and the two people involved have terrible memories. There are facts, but no one will know. It's, you know, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around, doesn't make a sound. If something happened and neither person involved remembers it correctly, how can you say what really occurred? And on top of that, I don't know if they did this experiment in one of your psychology classes, Joe, but I was in psychology in the 80s, and this was one of those things that the professors obviously read about and said, oh, I need to try that. Where the class would be going, and all of a sudden someone would burst in and do something. Some classes, they had a gun that fired blanks. In ours, it was a guy who came in and started shouting a bunch of obscenities, ran toward the professor, and then when he got down to the bottom of the thing, he turned around and ran up the other way. We were all freaked out that, hey, this guy's really mad and he's going to attack. And then, when the person leaves, the professor says, all right, write down what happened. And nobody has the same story. Everybody, he was wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. No, he was wearing a green shirt and khakis. No, he was wearing this. He had blonde hair, he had black hair, he had this, he had that. Nobody's stories all lined up because, and they talk about this when you read, true crime stuff, witnesses are very unreliable because our memory messes with us. We remember things the way we think they should have happened. So we're never going to know who did what for Lee Kirby. Myself, I used to go by what was called the McCartney-Lennon principle, which is the two of them together were better than them apart. But since then, we had the Playboy interview where John Lennon talked about, I wrote this, I wrote this, I wrote this. Paul McCartney has done a ton of interviews where he said, I wrote this, and it all lines up. With Stan, you look at his work before the Fantastic Four, and you can see, the whole, we didn't create anything before Fantastic Four. No, he was the editor of a comic book company. He was the one who threw out tons of stuff. You could tell that he, the corny jokes were his. The way the dialogue was written was his. The certain plot twists were his. There were certain plot twists that he always liked, and you would see those over and over and over again in his work. For Kirby, you knew what he brought to the table. I've learned Kirby's sense of humor. It's an odd sense of humor. It doesn't completely mesh with mine, but I understand it. I also know the kind of stories that Kirby liked to tell, the tropes that he liked to use. So you can see kind of where they would mesh, but you're never going to know completely. But these panels are just so much fun. I watched the Family Guy panel, which wasn't as fun as it would normally be, but it was still fun that everybody got together and were telling stories. So I love the fact that those panels were all available out online. And finally, yesterday I got done with work around 2. I'm not working as much at the group home. And when I do work on weekends, even if I do work the weekend, I leave at 2 in the afternoon because I need to kind of get some time away and kind of not be burned out.
You need Cory time.
So after I got done, I did all my grocery shopping. I did all of this. I picked up all the stuff I need so that I don't have to leave the house for 2 weeks. And I got home. I had a couple of beers in the fridge that I'd put a few nights before. It's 4 in the afternoon. The deck is shady. I grabbed House of X, Power of X, a Guinness, one of my little Bluetooth speakers, and listened to Slim Jim Phantom's Rockabilly Rave Up, which is a show on Sirius, where the drummer for the Stray Cats plays about an hour to 2 hours worth of rockabilly music that he likes. And just read House of X and Power of X and really loved it, and it was the most relaxing thing I've done in weeks. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
That's all. We normally hit 2 hours.
Well, finally we're going to, kind of go back to the hour and a half, I hope. Yeah. And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Cory, this is my step ladder. I never knew my real ladder. Hit my music.